Why does none of this bother me? Could it be this spacious comfy car?
The spacious new Volkswagen Atlas. It does life beautifully.
This episode is brought to you by Coca-Cola. Could your holiday use a bit more cheer? Want to bring more festivity to your family gatherings? Know someone in need of a bit more ahs? This season, adding some extra ho-ho-ho to any holiday gathering is as easy as adding ice-cold Coke to your cart. Coca-Cola. Real magic.
Hello and welcome to Unequal Sequel. I am Dave and I'm one of your two hosts for this new and exciting podcast.
And I'm Rich, and I'm also one of two hosts of this exciting podcast. Think of me as Murtar to Dave's Riggs. I'm too old for this shit, and he thinks he's a loose cannon with bad hair. Think of me as Sam to Dave's Frodo. I don't know what I'm doing, and he's got hairy feet. Think of me as Sully to Dave's Mike Wazowski. I'm big and hairy, and he's got one eye. Think of me as Shrek to Dave's Donkey. I'm really big, and he talks a lot. Think of me as Pumbaa to Dave's Timon. He's skinny and talks a lot, and my friends always stand downwind.
The premise of Unequal Sequel is very simple. We ask our guests their best ever sequel, worst ever sequel, and finally their dream sequel.
And of course, we often drift off and talk about other movie stuff and sequels in general, or, you know, whatever comes into our heads, really.
And also, I have to say this, we do slightly spoil movies, but they're mostly over 20, 25, 30 years old. Yeah. So it's not our fault.
Helen, I've just read on your Wikipedia that your first ever...
Yeah. I have a Wikipedia.
Yeah. Did you not know that?
Right.
This is amazing.
I mean, no, I think the last time I looked it up, it was there was a Helen O'Hara from Dexy's Midnight Runners, which is she plays violin.
Oh.
So I knew she had a Wikipedia page. I don't think I knew I did. But anyway, sorry. I assume it's right. Hopefully.
It says journalist Helen O'Hara.
Correct. Good. Yeah. Good start.
It's got where you're born.
Oh shit.
yeah, quite detailed. And there's a whole bit about your career. There's a quote, but it says your earliest memory was seeing Return of the Jedi at the cinema. Is that correct?
That's one of, I think my earliest cinema memory is actually Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was re-released. I wasn't around in 1937,
that's mine
just to be
too.
clear.
Yeah,
oh, really?
That's my earliest cinema memory. I went with my gran.
Yeah. That was my dad took me to that. I think probably because my sister had just been born and they wanted me out of the house for a minute and give my mum some peace, I would imagine. But yeah, I was about 3 or 4. So I was a bit younger, I think, when I saw that than Jedi. But Jedi is one of my first cinema memories, yes.
Is that the first sequel you remember seeing?
Yes. Yes, it would be. But I hadn't seen the original. I hadn't seen Star Wars and I hadn't seen Empire. So I ended up seeing Jedi in the cinema and then Star Wars on TV probably like a year later. And then it probably took a couple of years to see Empire. Like I was really, excited to see it and like frustrated that I hadn't, because we didn't have a VCR even in those days. Yeah. So it took a little while. Yeah.
It would have been Stuart Little too. Yeah.
Aww.
Stuart Little was the first movie I ever saw in the cinema when I was younger. I distinctly remember the second one coming out. I'm not sure if I actually saw that in the cinema either, strangely. But I remember being very, very excited for that, having the memory of Stuart Little one relatively fresh in my head, because I don't think there was some sort of ludicrous 5 or 10 year gap between the two Stuart Little movies.
No.
And closely followed by Spider-Man 2. They are the two major instances in my childhood. I can remember being, oh my god, I'm so excited for this.
I don't think I've seen Stuart Little 2. What happens in Stuart Little 2? I've seen the first one. I've definitely watched the first one. My little boy very much enjoyed it. But I've not seen the second one.
Firstly, you're missing out on an exhilarating work of cinema. Secondly, what happens in Stuart Little 2 is he's still living with the family that took him in as an orphaned mouse. He meets a little bird a little bird that can also talk.
Obviously.
And they become friends. Some would say closer than friends. They start a courtship together. But this bird is on the run from a falcon, and the falcon's evil, very, very evil. And they just get up to all sorts of hijinks and shenanigans across the city.
No, I don't remember the first sequel I saw. I mean, we grew up with an age of VHS where, like, you know, Gremlins 2 maybe and things like that. I mean, I think I saw Gremlins 2 before I saw Gremlins 1. But the sequels were just a part of our life. They were always on telly.
Yeah.
They were always, you know, VHS. And maybe it was different for our parents. I remember being the most excited I was. I remember the build up to the Phantom Menace and being in year 7 at senior school. And my oldest sister, because none of my family were interested, taking me. And I remember my mate at the time, David York, we were at school and he'd gone to America, and it was when films came out in America, like 4 months before they came out in the UK, and he'd seen it. And so for 4 months, he'd been telling me all this stuff about how amazing it was and how brilliant it was. And so I just got this and you know, the build up to that movie was so intense. And I remember going with my sister and just loving it. I would have been about 12. But I remember Phantom Menace, like, I know it got a lot of negative press, and it had a bad ride from, you know, like Simon Pegg openly and started, you know, spaced. There's whole streams of spaced about his hatred for the trilogy that George did.
That's always what I think of. I always think of Spaced when I hear
him burning his toys. Yeah.
Goes to the job centre and saying, I got sacked. And she goes, Phantom Menace?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. But I mean, I loved it. I was a kid and I loved it. And, you know, I think that there's that great thing in Spaced where he said, you know, someone says to him, you know, he says, yeah, but, you know, Jar Jar. And someone says, yeah, but the Ewoks. And he's like, you know, and it's like, I think it depends how old you are, who you are. But I really love Phantom Menace. But I just remember being so excited. I remember coming home and I remember they did the little Kellogg's cornflakes things, and we used to make stop frame animations out of those. And I just remember that being super pumped about that movie. Maybe I was in year 9, maybe I was a bit older, but I just remember being super pumped.
Yeah.
And then seeing it like 2 or 3 times at the cinema.
I remember going to see that with my dad, mum, and my dad knows nothing about Star Wars, and he comes out at the end at Phantom Menace and he goes, so the little kid, that was Luke Skywalker, right? And I was like, no, Dad, bless you.
I'm with you. I absolutely love Ghost 2. I think Ghostbusters. I almost prefer Ghostbusters 2 to Ghostbusters, the original.
This is a safe place, Sean.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. I completely understand that. It was I preferred number 2 for most of my life, but I think I've come round to preferring 1. But I love 2. I don't know what anyone's problem with it is. It's brilliant.
I think it's great.
I think the only silly thing, although I mean there's a few silly things, but you would expect perhaps if the Ghostbusters are in court, you might expect someone to just, you know, if they're saying there's a river of slime, you might get someone to just pop their head down and go, no, they're right, there is a river of slime.
Yeah. What is your best sequel ever?
I was thinking about this when you said it, and it's probably good that I haven't had a lot of time to think about it. And I think it's going to haunt me, because as soon as you commit to one, I'm going to spend the rest of my life going, it's not that, actually, it's this. And it's an interesting question, because I've never thought about it. It never occurred to me to think about my favourites. But the one I picked was Desperado, because I think it's pretty much one of, if not the best film of the 1990s, I think. I think it's incredible and doesn't get nearly enough credit for how good it is. And it's a sequel, but it's the genre I like, which is sequel/remake. And I like that. I like any film that does that. Any film that sort of works as both things.
Scream 2 is my favourite of the Scream franchise. I can't... It's going to sound really weird, me talking about this film, but I was kind of obsessed with it when it came out. So again, my obsession, you know, in those days was like related to kind of magazines. So like Empire had this Scream 2 photo shoot. I can remember it and picture it as clear, like, as, you know, it could be in front of me right now. And it's kind of like this blue, it's like got this blue filter on it. And obviously it's very late 90s, early 2000s in terms of its fashion and everything. And that photo was like my happy place for a long time. I used to just gaze at it. But I love Scream 2. And the reason I love it is probably, again, people will laugh at the reason I love it so much. One of the main reasons I love it is that it came out when I was on the cusp between secondary school and university. And it's like my favorite college film of all time. And it's like American colleges were like, because I've been a big like America-phile all my life, and I now live in the US. So I've always been obsessed with America, and like American colleges, they always looked so cool to me. Like the fact that they have that quad, and they're always really leafy, and they've got nice buildings and stuff. So it's the fact that it was this amazing college movie, and to me, I was like, and also I was a drama student, so I studied theatre at university, right? Yeah. And Sydney is a theatre student in Scream 2, and there's this whole plot where she's like in this Greek tragedy, and like it's this amazing full-blown production. This is like what I thought, me going to university, oh yeah, this is totally what it's going to be like, and I'm going to be in a Greek tragedy with red, satin blowing all over the place in a wind machine, and it's going to be real like high production values.
What are your favourite scenes from The Dark Knight? Which ones stand out for you? Got any favourites?
Well, apart from the beginning, but of course there are several key points. But I think again, in terms of being there, being at the IMAX, you've heard the Joker's voice. You've now you've got this little peek at how Heath is going to play him through the ripping off the mask and delivering that line at the beginning. But we've still not got a bigger sense of how he's going to play him. How is he going to live within it? He does. It's just incredible. You have the crime lords sat there.
It's crazy.
And then it comes to, I think, that was it sort of tracking shot behind him. He walks through the sort of, the detector, the thing, and we're waiting for the famous laugh, the big Joker cackle. That's that's what everyone is expecting. And he just goes, ha, ha, ha. And it got such a big laugh in the cinema. No one was expecting it. What a way to play with what you're expecting. Also, It made him more menacing. That scene is a phenomenal scene. You've sort of introduced him twice. What a clever way of doing it. We'll rip off the mask, we'll have him deliver a line, then hold it back, really hold it, and then let him enter a scene like that, and he just...
I really love that there's absolutely no origin story whatsoever for the Joker. It just allows the Joker to be a thing. It doesn't explain him, doesn't kind of try to fill in the blanks for you. It completely leaves that to you. And that for me just makes it perfect.
Well, but like when he I think the first time that he ends up delivering his backstory is to one of, I can't remember the name of, sorry, you might remember the name, the guy where he cuts, I think, he kills him. And he kills him, and it's before he kills him that he says, like, do you want to know how I got these scars? So, I think we've all forgotten that because we talk about, how brilliant it is that he keeps on, coming up with these different backstories. But the first time you're watching that, you think, there's the backstory.
Yeah.
So then when he delivers a different one, it's just mind-blowing. Yeah. Again, you can't believe how brilliant it is. And of course he doesn't tell the backstory. Of course he doesn't. Yes, that's so perfect. So that, there's that. I think there's every time he tells a backstory, that opening scene. But again, it's got to be the one-on-one meeting with Batman in prison. You're not like them.
When he turns the light on, he's just standing behind him.
Oh, absolutely wonderful.
Hits his head on the board. Yeah, it's great.
If you watch that again, next time you watch that, remember this. I actually didn't. I've not looked up this, if you will, goof, but I did spot it myself, which is before Batman slams his head on the desk, you can see Heath just before he does it flinch because he knows it's coming. You can see the actor go, "Oh God, here we go," and does it. Yeah, we're the. What's the dialogue? But
Sorry, I was just wondering how many takes of that it took for him to flinch like that. It's like, this is the 15th time now.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, that's also the scene that, that's, so not only do you have this fantastic one-on-one, the great, without a doubt, I don't think anyone could really contest it, the greatest superhero villain of all time. against absolutely one of the best superheroes of all time. We've been waiting for this. We've not had it since 1989, and they're back and we're getting to watch it. They're talking. It's brilliant. It's what cinema's about. It's event cinema. I can't believe it. The Joker and Batman one-on-one, just talking. But it's also the scene that then sets that amazing chase where Batman then has to go and he's trying to save. I'm sure we can do spoilers on this.
Oh yeah, go for it.
He thinks he's going to save Rachel.
We're all right.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, he thinks he's going to save Rachel, and he ends up saving Harvey. It's just the way that film unfolds, and I'm not actually a huge fan of action. I think you tend to grow out of it as you get older. I think what Nolan paid a lot of attention to, it's very apparent in A Dark Knight in particular, is every piece of action is really part of the story. So you were so invested, that when Batman's off to try and save Rachel, you are so invested in this chase sequence, this action sequence, because of where it's going. And he never stops that. That's all. The action is there's always jeopardy at the bottom of it.
So here's the thing. We did an episode years and years ago on the show about favourite sequels. I remember having a conversation with my co-host saying, go on the show, I don't want to do the same answer again. That's kind of boring. And it's like, but it's your answer. It's the answer. I haven't changed this answer since I was a child. And you're like, yeah, good point. It is the right answer. So the answer for me is Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan.
Lovely answer.
Yeah, for some people. Some people go, ugh.
Who's done that?
Who? Yeah, who
Troglodytes. Yeah, no, essentially, Star Trek II is fascinating to me for multiple reasons. For those who don't know, 1982, directed by Nicholas Meyer, Harve Bennett's come on as the producer. Star Trek the Motion Picture was a reactionary thing because Star Trek, the original series, was fine. It ran, it became this sort of, cultural print to a degree. And then Star Wars came out and said, well, Paramount's like, well, what property do we have with that word star in it? And, bang, we have a Star Trek. Oh, that's great. We can bring this back. And the motion picture is made, I think, $45 million, which is huge, huge sum at times, still pretty big money. It was very long, very boring, and on a certain level, quite interesting on a philosophical point of view. It's like, yeah, sure. Probe goes out to space, comes back to see God, and God's us, and we're like, oh, how disappointing. And Spock essentially just flies through a cloud for a while. It's fine as a piece. It makes sense, but it died at the box office, and it was like, this is not doing well. Critics don't like it either. And so there's a famous quote, I think, from one of the producers where Harve Bennett's brought in and he says, yeah, I can make a film with that. He says, right, can you make it for less than $45 million? And he says, where I come from, we can make 5 movies with that. And then he goes off and he's like, I've never seen an episode of Star Trek in my life. So he has to go and do a little research. And he brings on Nicholas Meyer, who's also never seen Star Trek in his life. They go through the original show, come across Space Seat, which is the Khan episode, basically. And they say, bang, there's an open-ended thing there, and there's a villain, because the first film doesn't really have a villain. It has an inquisitive probe, and that's fine, but the audience wants a Darth Vader. It wants the evil machinations of some cackling bad guy. The reason I think it's the best sequel, to this day remains the best sequel, is it's one of the few examples, the sequel being better than the original. And what we've just mentioned, this film doesn't actually escalate. It doesn't go bigger because it can't for the money. It goes deeper in the emotion. So what you end up with is something that is less of a visual spectacle. Motion picture, for what it's worth, when it was done, the director's cut, and it's all very pretty at times, and like, oh wow, you've done a lot here. This thing started saying, well, what can we do with its lo-fi? And they're like, well, we'll take all the costumes from the old film and dye them red, and they'll be the sort of rest of the crew's uniform. We had no money. We'll get the backdrop for Kirk's apartment to be literally the backdrop from the Towering Inferno. That'll do. It was in San Francisco, that kind of stuff. They're literally just stealing what they can from the studio. Just say, we can repurpose this, that'll do. And then they do this beautiful genius idea that carries on for a lot of Star Trek and makes it stand out, which is that this is a naval thing, and these are submarines. These are very slow turning 3-dimensional objects, not dogfights in space. And they have that beautiful various solutions in water filmed in slow-mo for the sort of backdrops of this nebula. And it still holds up really well as the Genesis probe, visualization sequence being cutting edge technology because they can afford that small 20-30 seconds of CGI. And the emotional arc between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy is very strong, as well as an adversary that, again, because Ricardo Montalban was on Fantasy Island at the time, he couldn't get the scheduling to be on screen at the same time as Shatner. So those two, despite being adversaries, and it's like everybody knows Khan screaming and echoing up the night, they never share the screen. Yeah. And that is so amazingly fascinating to how you can do that sort of the idea of what old naval battles would be in a master and commander kind of mindset, that you'd never actually meet eye to eye because those captains are too mad, but they have so much passion and hatred for each other, etc.
Psycho 2. absolutely incredible film, and no one talks about it.
I was really... I never even thought there was a Psycho 2 until your pick. Yeah, and I watched it and I would say I was pleasantly surprised.
But this is the thing, like, barely anybody knows about Psycho 2, let alone Psycho 3, Psycho 4, and Bates Motel, not the TV series with Freddie Highmore, but the straight-to-TV film, which is admittedly an abomination. Psycho 2, on the other hand, is like, if there was ever a horror film ever made that didn't need a sequel, Psycho, because it's got one of the best, most iconic endings of all time. Like, the shot of Norman in the cell with the skeleton sort of like slowly coming across the face, and then just those credits with the car being dredged, and it's like, wow, I've just watched one of the best things of all time. You know, for years since, everyone just said it's one of the best films of all time. We don't need to know anything else here. We know everything about Norman Bates. We've got the reveal about his mother. We had that bait and switch with Marion Crane. Like, nothing else needs to be said. So why on earth, 23 years later, would anyone go, Psycho 2, mate? That's what I want. And so I watched it because I found out it existed.
When did you watch it? Sorry, when did you watch it?
I was studying an Alfred Hitchcock module at university.
Of course.
I was writing a 4,000-word essay about Alfred Hitchcock.
Why wouldn't you?
And I'd watched Psycho like 5-6 times over the course of like 3 weeks, to the point where I was there like, okay, I'm thinking about my mum more than I should be right now, and I. I was there like because I've got Letterboxd, and when you're on the page on the Letterboxd app, I'm not getting paid to promote Letterboxd, by the way. When you're on the page for Letterboxd, at the bottom of it, it's got related films, and it was like there's Psycho 2, 3, 4, blah 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 blah, and I was there like, okay, Psycho 2.
Sergeant and Mrs. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Is that a tub in the kitchen?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by L'Oreal Paris Everpure Hair Care and their Bond Repair System. If you style or color your hair, you know how damaging it can be. Why pay for overpriced bond repair products, you know the ones, when you can get the same results for a third of the price with Everpure Bond Repair? If you want smoother, stronger, softer hair, this is the dupe for you. Put this dupe to the test. Buy it now at l'orealparisusa.com/bond repair.
Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of Vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
What is the worst sequel you've ever watched?
So I don't know if this is the worst. Obviously, at Sequelisers, we deal with a lot of bad sequels. But I think the one that sticks in my mind the most is Men in Black 2.
Great answer.
Because the first film was so good, and we kind of I've mentioned on Sequelisers a few times about how I feel like Men in Black 2 was like my critical mind coming online, because before that I just kind of watched movies and they just kind of washed over me, and I was just like, I liked it when the explosions happened and the people said the funny things, and I watched Men in Black 2 and I was like, I'm not feeling entertained. In fact, I'm kind of sitting here and just feeling like angry because I feel like I've been conned out of money. And I can't stop thinking about like, oh, that was bad. I would have done that differently. Or, why have they made this choice? And so it was like my critical brain kind of waking up for the first time. And I kind of walked out of that film and was just like, man, that was bad. I did not like that. And in some ways it was great because it forced me to start questioning my relationship with media and stuff like that. But what a disappointment after such a brilliant first film. And you kind of think, like, where did you go wrong? You had the same stars who had the fantastic chemistry between Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. You have the same director. Like, you've got, great budget and all that kind of stuff. And it's just dreck. It's just bad. I know there's some people out there who do like it, and I'm like, I don't understand you.
They're wrong.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I like it, but I don't hate it.
Oh, Rich, it's shit. It is shit. I was a massive Men in Black fan. I bought the single. It was on the front of the first film magazine I ever bought. I was so into it. I loved Will Smith. I loved the aliens. I loved him and Tommy Lee Jones. I loved everything about Men in Black, and I was so excited for Men in Black 2. And then you watch it, and like you said, the choices they make are just absolutely a puddle of piss. And even the CGI was bad back there with the Johnny Knoxville extra head.
Yeah.
The storyline, the terrible... Like, we're talking about how good Magneto and Stryker were as bad guys, and then we get Laura Boyle Flynn, whatever it is.
It's supposed to be a B movie, though, isn't it? It's supposed to be like a 50s... It's supposed to be a 50s B movie, and that's why they're cheesy. You know, that's kind of the angle they're going at. Do you not think it's entertaining at all? Do you not get anything from it?
I mean, I haven't watched it in a long, long time, but I can think of like one scene that I enjoy, which is where Will Smith is going to the post office to reawaken Tommy Lee Jones's character, and you have the bit starring the tragically just died Biz Markie doing like beatboxing to kind of like identify himself as an alien. And the reason that scene is actually quite good, apart from like having great people in it, is because it's a joke that wasn't in the first one and feels new. Whereas so much of that film is, hey, you liked the pug from the first film, let's bring him back and give him like more lines but less to do, basically. Ugh. Hey, you like the worm guys, let's bring them back. Hey, you like this, hey, you like that. You liked when Tony Shalhoub got his head shot off, let's do that again. It's repeating every joke with diminishing returns. Even the final joke where you have that zoom out from the Earth to show that, you know, we've been dealing with a galaxy that's in a marble, and hey, our galaxy's in a marble too, and you know, it keeps going out. And they do exactly the same joke at the end of the second film.
Alien vs Predator 2 Requiem. Awful. Fuck that movie.
Fuck it, innit?
It's the worst.
It's the worst. Why is it the worst to you? And then we'll jump on.
It's the worst to me because I grew up loving Aliens. Again, that's just another area of my slightly inappropriate film going youth. I watched Alien at a very young age, and Aliens, and became very, very obsessed with that world. I thought it was so cool and scary, but not too scary. And then, obviously, by proxy, you then discover Predator. And I liked Predator 2 when I was a bit younger, and now I'm okay with it. When Alien vs Predator was coming out, so that came out in 2004, I believe.
Yeah, we were at uni when it came out.
Yeah, well, obviously, give or take a year. I know. I was young. I was about 8 when Alien vs Predator was coming out, and I was so excited for it, as any 8-year-old boy that watched Alien and Predator as a slightly younger child would be. It was like the ultimate event. It was my end game at that time in my life. I remember seeing trailers for it and just thinking, oh my god, like this is going to be like the best movie of my entire life. I've been waiting my life for this at the age of 8. You know what, I still don't mind Alien vs Predator. I'm not going to even tend or vaguely defend it as being as good as its predecessors. I think it's a PG-13 Alien and Predator movie that kind of knows what it is. I think clearly wants to have fun with Alien and Predator in a way that isn't scary, the way it's like an action movie. And when they do fight, it's fine. It's fine. And it's, you know what, it's watchable. That's the main thing here. It is watchable. And then Alien vs Predator 2, I had no idea was even a thing until I saw the DVD in Tesco, obviously like however many years later when I was with my mum and dad on the Sunday shop. I was like, oh my god, what? And then my mum and dad just, I didn't really even need to ask because they knew I would desperately want it, and they're like, okay then, you can get it. Straight in the shopping basket, straight home. It was the edition too nasty for cinemas or something like that. I was like, great, so excited, put it in. Oh my Christ, it is diabolical. It is the worst thing. It's an insult to everything. It's terrible writing. Again, it's just completely uninformed about itself. Like I say, Alien vs Predator, the first one, I still feel likes where its roots are, if it's clearly just not bothered about honouring them too much. Whereas the second movie is Alien and Predator fighting in a shitty slasher movie, basically. Most of all, you cannot see Alien or Predator throughout the movie. That is fucking dreadful.
But I've chosen The Rise of Skywalker because I've seen it now 3 times. I saw it twice in the cinema because the first time I thought it can't be That can't be it. It can't be that bad. So I saw it again, and admittedly, the second time it did go up slightly. Like, it went up from like a 2 out of 5 to maybe like a 2.5 out of 5. Because there are some nice bits in it. Like, the end game bit, the end is quite nice. And it's just, it's quite well shot and stuff at points. But I think the further away I am from the film coming out, and the more I learn about how it was made and how badly it was just kind of put together from the very first of the sequel trilogy, it manages to somehow retroactively make the other two films worse. It does not add up to a cohesive trilogy at all. And I think the third one is a kind of an amalgamation of all the issues that the trilogy had. Even despite being a very big fan of both Force Awakens and Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker is just so badly put together that it feels like about 4 films in one. There are some pretty diabolical acting performances in there. I think, no offense, I love Daisy Ridley as a person, but I think she gives quite a bad performance as Rey. I think the film in general just doesn't come together. They added in Palpatine for no reason other than we need something to kind of bring it all together again. It's not as if there was a mention of Palpatine in the first film. They just added him in the very last second in The Rise of Skywalker. And I just thought, it has ruined kind of my love for the sequel trilogy, because my link to Star Wars is not that strong compared to other people. Like, I only watched kind of the originals when I was in university, so like 10 plus years ago. So I'd seen the prequels before I'd seen the originals. And I enjoyed the originals, don't get me wrong. I think they're all very good. I think Empire Strikes Back is definitely the best one. But I'm not as massive a Star Wars nut as many people are. Like I know, like you are, Dave, for example. So seeing the sequels, these were new Star Wars films that I had quite a big connection to. I thought these are new characters that, you've got Han, you've got Leia, you've got Luke again. So you've got those to kind of tie to the originals. But you've got Rey, you've got Finn, you've got Kylo Ren, who I think is one of the better Star Wars villains. And yet, even with Kylo, The Rise of Skywalker just ruins his entire arc by, in the last 20 minutes, he says not a single word. His entire journey to becoming Ben Solo again is completely ruined when he doesn't get a chance to say anything to Rey when he sacrifices his life for her. Like, what are we doing here, man? Like, it was so frustrating to watch it unfold, because the moment when you find out that Rey is a Palpatine, for example, that's the end of a film. That's not the end of Act 2. Like, that is where a film should have ended, and then you had a while to kind of come to terms with the fallout of her being a Palpatine, and then the next film deals with the consequences of that, her trying to become good again, or something like that. But that's not the end of a middle act. That is not the way that should have been done. And it just smacks of a film that was written a month before it was meant to be being shot. And it was... Sorry, I've ranted for a long time about Star Wars.
I'm going to be completely controversial and say that I dislike The Last Jedi more than Rise of Skywalker.
What?
But, having said that, it's only the first hour or so of Rise of Skywalker that I like. And also, when I watched it in the cinema for the first time, and today was only the second time that I've watched it, I was so angry. I don't think I've ever been so angry in a movie at the cinema ever.
Yeah.
And my wife was genuinely worried because I was so cross. I was just like fuming. Mainly the last line. Just the last line of the film.
Rey Skywalker.
Just craps over the whole entire franchise. Basically, you've chosen the name, you've chosen Skywalker just to make the title of this film work.
Yeah.
That is the only reason. She could have said Palpatine and recognised the sacrifice that her parents made for her. She could have said, and which would have been a perfectly acceptable ending, just Rey.
Just Rey. Yeah.
Just Rey.
That's all she needed to say.
Yeah.
Saying Skywalker just makes the title of the film work. And that's it. Yeah. That's all that does. Hideous. Absolutely hideous.
Along the same lines, it is completely appalling. It's along the same lines, like, say what you will about Last Jedi, because I'm a big fan of it. I don't think it's, perfect by any stretch of imagination, but I think it is very good. And I think what it wants to do in that it kind of throws out the rule book of Star Wars being like, anyone can be a Jedi. You haven't got to be linked to any lineage or whatever. That whole idea is wonderful. convincing, the kid with the broom at the end of Last Jedi. Like, he has seen that, he could be a new Jedi because he's seen someone else who's not from the Skywalker lineage. He knows that he could become the next Jedi. And yet they throw that out the window in the third film. Like, it negates the whole point of The Last Jedi. The film that Rian Johnson wrote was a film that was released into cinemas. And yet, so this idea that Disney kind of didn't like Last Jedi is nonsense. They didn't like the fan reactions to Last Jedi. So that's why they completely wrote The Rise of Skywalker to suit Reddit forums and kind of the really rabid fan base. And that's what killed Star Wars off as a sequel trilogy. That's what ruined the entire trilogy. And so just the fact that, to go back to it, the fact that Last Jedi set up this wonderful concept of that you haven't got to be anyone, and yet Rise of Skywalker just thought, actually, you've got to be someone important, actually. It ruins the entire point of the whole trilogy.
Whatever you're into, it's on Prime. Maybe you love pop music. With Prime, you can watch documentaries about your favorite bands, stream all their albums on Amazon Music, and even order some merch in time for their next concert, all in one place. From shopping to streaming, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
This episode is brought to you by Tidy Care from Tidy Cats, a new line of cat-first litter solutions, like Tidy Care Comfort, made with smaller granules for a cat-preferred paw feel versus the leading clumping litter. And Tidy Care Alert, with color-changing crystals that help monitor the health of your cat. Designed with cats' needs in mind without sacrificing the performance you expect. New Tidy Care from Tidy Cats. Learn more at tidycats.com.
Look around. You can find cars like these on AutoTrader, like that car riding your tail. Or if you're tailgating right now, all those cars doubling as kitchens and living rooms are on AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro, cars like the ones in the gym parking lot are for sale on AutoTrader. New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
What is your dream sequel? What's the film you love so much that hasn't got a sequel? And Rich is magician, so he can make this happen.
Okay, wow. It sort of is happening, but not happening, which is why I want to talk about it, because I'm a bit disappointed. But I'm not disappointed. I don't know. Anyway, a sequel in the Tim Burton Batman universe that is Michael Keaton Batman, but The Dark Knight Returns, basically. So don't do the comic book The Dark Knight Returns, because the original Batman's kind of like Killing Joke, a few other bits and bobs. But then they did their own spin on it, obviously. And so it's its own universe, isn't it? It's like Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah.
So with that Gotham, with that, and he has to come back for whatever reason. And be
So
Batman
you're talking,
again.
sequel to Batman Returns, and you would have it done now as Old Man Batman, or would you a few years after Batman Returns?
I'd have it done now as Old Man Batman.
Nice.
So just do
I
it
like
now.
that.
Because obviously he's coming back in the Flash movie, and it's like, it's cool, he's going to be Batman again. But I think Michael Keaton, for me, is like a definitive Batman, or at least the comic book Batman. Like the visuals, the vibe, the acting. He's the one that's the most psychotic, by far.
Yeah.
It just could be so good.
Keaton is Batman for me. Like there's no other Batman.
It just could be such a good film.
What are
if
you?
They did it right.
I'm Batman.
He looks so good as Batman.
He is.
He's just so good. Genuinely scary, you know.
There was a third part planned. So Tim Burton had it all planned, and it got trashed by Joel Schumacher essentially because again the studio interfered too much, and Tim Burton said, "No, I'm not doing it," and pulled out.
And then Keaton walked.
It's interesting to read about all
Keaton
that.
walked, and they got Val Kilmer. Do you know they had Robin Williams lined up for the Riddler?
That'd been insane.
Yeah,
that would have been. That would have been good.
That would have been amazing.
It's weird how it all went.
Keep Burton directing. That's who you would have as your director now.
Not necessarily, because he's kind of lost his mojo nowadays.
No, you can say it.
I don't like being negative about people. I just feel like he's in search of a hit.
Yeah, definitely.
So this could be it, to be honest. You know, get his mojo back, because it's very Tim Burton, the Batman movie, especially Batman Returns as well.
Yeah.
And there's just something about it. The tone, again, I could keep coming back to tone, but you can just see it, him like having to be Batman again. Alfred's long dead because he was already really old.
He was very old.
You have to have like Robin, but you do that sort of like Robin was probably killed.
Okay, I was about to say, who would you cast?
And then he's like, I'm going to get a new Robin.
Okay.
And he doesn't want to do it, but then he has to do it because he's old.
Yeah.
And then, it kind of almost writes itself because you've got that time period in between.
Who would you cast as the new Robin then?
I think it would be best if it was as a girl, like in the comic.
Yeah. I have no.
Somebody.
Just one step. Would you have Danny Elfman back as composer to the music?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because that's like a huge part of Batman, where it's just gothic and just brilliant. And then you can do another sequel after. You can do Batman Beyond.
Oh.
Yes, please.
Where he can't be Batman now because he's literally is too old, and then he had to train a new Batman, and it's going a bit more sci-fi and stuff. Because Batman Beyond's a really cool cartoon and a really good idea.
I really had to think long and hard about this one. And I was toing and froing, but I decided that the chosen one would be the Labyrinth.
Love it. Love it. Again, I absolutely love it because Dave is so scared and freaked out by this movie as well.
I can't tell you how many nightmares this has given me when I was a young boy.
Really?
Honestly, still, the things that throw their heads up and down terrify me. The hands going down, and the thought that there's goblins. The thought that there's goblins in my cupboard waiting under the bed and stuff. I can't get over it. I never forgive it. I'm terrified of it. I've seen horror films, I've seen thrillers that are meant to scare you, and the films I'm most scared of is this one. My brother bought it for me a couple of years ago for a laugh. I've got rid of it straight away. Just the puppets freak me out as well. Anyway, why do you love it?
No, but the thing is, I totally understand it, that there are certain bits like the fiery chaps that you're talking about who keep throwing their heads around. That is quite scary, particularly when she goes to escape and it's almost like they're going to stop her. Yeah. And I think a lot of these adventure films, it's hard to sort of get away from the fact that, if you go back in time to things like, Carol's writings and just some of the other people like Alice in Wonderland, there is a lot of sort of quite pedophilic sort of connotations, even if you look at like certain ballets, I know like the Nutcracker, I found it quite like that. And in this one, not only that bit with the fire guys, but also when she's in that absolutely incredibly iconic and incredible set of the ballroom, having that goblin ball. And obviously she is like 13 years old, 14 years old or something, but she's certainly very young. She's 14 actually. That's who she's supposed to be 14. And, obviously you've got a goblin king that's asking her to love him and worship him and, essentially be his queen. So, those sort of moments, I think, as I got older, I thought, wow, that kind of doesn't sit well with me. But as a child, you don't see it like that. You just think it all looks very innocent and, you kind of, the bit that scares you is the costumes and oh no, are they going to hurt her? And, oh, Ludo's huge. Oh, he's nice. That's fine. He can protect her sort of thing, Yeah. There was so much magic involved, like, the journey of her going there. And for me, I I used to get lipsticks and I draw arrows on the pavement. Sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. The 80s and 90s. It was me. I am Banksy. Not. But yeah, so I really did I loved it. And actually the hands, maybe I'm just a weirdo, but I loved it so much. I just saw it as little bits of art in a way. And I'd be like, that's my first favourite. That's my second favourite. That's my third. Honestly, I did. Ask my mom.
It's like art. I think it's like art. I think it's like an art installation of a movie. And, the fact that David Bowie's in it is even better.
It's unique. I would say that about it. And so many people love it. It's incredible how many people enjoy it and how I seem to be the only one that doesn't really like it at all. Did you see it as a small girl when you were young? Because when was this made?
I can remember the first moment I saw it, actually.
Tell us about it.
I was 8 years old, and when I was younger, I had terrible asthma, and I was admitted to hospital for a few days. And when I came out, my brother and sister were really excited to have me watch The Labyrinth as like a sort of welcome home. And they're like, oh, this is my sister, who's the eldest, said, oh, this is a film you're going to love. And I was like, oh, well, okay, just really happy to be home with the family.
Yeah.
And I just remember sitting there and just being really cozy and it being like nice and dim in the room and watching The Labyrinth. And it was just mind-blowing. It was like happy to be home, awesome film, and then starring a guy who became one of my idols throughout my life and wrote the soundtrack, which, oh my gosh, I know every word to every song.
What's your favourite song?
Oh, it has to be You Remind Me of the Babe, what babe, babe, the power, 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 voodoo, voodoo, remind me of the babe.
Brilliant.
If you read the book of The Princess Bride, if you read certainly the quote-unquote 25th anniversary edition or later, you will find a chapter at the end, which is chapter 1 of Buttercup's Baby, a book that has not actually, in fact, been written. And the chapter is called The Death of Fezzik, which is very upsetting immediately. And it's a great story. And you're just like, I need more. I must have it. And so yeah, I would love to see that. But I would be extremely picky about it. And I don't know if there's anything more out there, if William Goldman ever wrote more and left it in a desk drawer or something, if one of his family will one day find it and publish it, I would 100% be here to read it. But, I would absolutely love to see more Princess Bride because it is one of my all-time favourite films. And I think if you got the original cast maybe doing voice work and then animated it, I think it could be pretty special. Because I don't want to recast any of them. I mean, I can hear the arguments for recasting. Like someone the other day suggested that Tom Hiddleston would make a fine Man in Black, and that's true. However, he is not ultimately the Man in Black, So while he would be very good in the role is in fact Cary Elwes's and always should be. So I would quite like to see an animated version of that, and I think it could be cool.
What happens in that chapter?
Well, so basically, I mean, obviously the whole kingdom is after them as they escape, so they have to, sort of ride through the night. They end up getting themselves onto an island that is surrounded by whirlpools, basically, so no one can come and get them, which gives them all a bit of time to kind of relax and recuperate. And Buttercup has a baby, and Fezzik becomes the baby's nursemaid, and they live there for several years, and the baby, Fezzik is devoted to the kid, and the kid is likewise devoted to Fezzik because of course they are. And then there comes a time when the baddies are coming to get them basically, and they have to escape up a mountain. Or rather, Fezzik is escaping up the mountain while the others, I think, try to get Inigo and the Dread Pirate Roberts and the ship Revenge to come back and rescue them. And Fezzik ends up separated from the group and is chased basically to the top of the mountain. And the only way to get Buttercup or the baby to safety is basically to jump off and cushion the baby's fall with his own body. And it's just like, I can't even. It's very upsetting. But yeah, that's sort of the opening chapter of the book. So you've got all these baddies after our little gang and them desperately trying to escape with the kid in tow.
When Dave mentioned this to me as your sequel, the first thing that came into my head is we need a middle-aged Fred Savage reading this to Peter Falk in his nursing home.
Oh my God.
This is how it needs to go.
Oh God, wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful? But yeah, absolutely, Fred Savage reading it to his kid would be amazing.
But here's the thing. This is genuinely, even though I consider myself quite like knowledgeable about films, quite like hip with the critical and cultural consensus, like I genuinely didn't know until picking this film for this and looking at IMDb and stuff, like I didn't know that I knew that critics didn't really like Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2. Like I kind of knew that. What I didn't know was that fans also hate Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2. Like there must be a specific subsection of kids that grew up in the 2000s that absolutely adore these films. And then, 95% of the rest of society hates them. Because there was going to be a Scooby-Doo 3, and it got cancelled because fans and critics hated it. And there was obviously no point in doing it.
Oh, I feel bad now.
I've only ever known loving those films. I thought everyone did. And it was a real, red pill moment where I was there hang on. No one likes this. But I fucking love it. I really genuinely...
Okay, next one. Why do you love it? Why do you love it?
Okay, so I love the Scooby-Doo cartoons, like the original Scooby-Doo cartoons. Like,
so do I.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Love it. Watched those on TV as a kid all the time. I loved the animated TV films, like the Witch's Ghost or Witch's Ghost, Cyber Chase, Aloha, Scooby-Doo. There were loads of them, basically. The live-action Scooby-Doo films, I think they're so funny. I think that it's got one of the best matches of casting to character in like any film going. Like you look at the cast for that film, and you've got Freddie Prinze Jr., who is so good. And if you watch like Star Wars Rebels as well, like as Kanan in Star Wars Rebels, he's one of my favorite Star Wars characters. And I think he's so cool. And Sarah Michelle Gellar, who obviously Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she's great.
And the one that I thought of was The Italian Job. And that's just one that I really
Can we just make sure we're talking about the Michael Caine one and not the Mark Wahlberg?
We are. I've never seen the Mark Wahlberg one. Although I
Good.
did read something recently that made me think, oh, maybe.
What did you read?
I read that it was meant to have been a kind of more of a sequel to the first one originally. And I think also Where Eagles Dare, because they have the same writer. And there was that someone initially wrote a screenplay of it, which made it both a sequel to The Italian Job and a sequel to Where Eagles Dare.
That makes it sound 100 times more interesting than
Yeah,
it
and I was like,
actually is.
no. But then it points out that's not what they made. You know, okay, I'm out again. Suddenly I was like, oh, really?
Yeah, I would have watched that.
It's a sequel to 2 films.
Wow.
Well, I think it's all meant to be.
done.
I think the idea was it was meant to be. It's the same writer. I think it's Troy Kennedy Martin wrote both of them. And I think the idea, which might be a thing that's worth looking into, was I think someone was trying to make a kind of almost shared universe thing where it's all about the gold is the same gold just 20 years later. And it's this sort of gold that's being shipped around different
That's
mafia
pretty cool.
and Nazis and whatever, and who has control of this bullion. And so I was like, oh, that sounds great. And then I
Yeah,
went,
it does sound
and suddenly
great.
I was all,
Yeah, it does
and suddenly
sound
I was-
great.
For half a minute, I was all in on, oh man, I can't believe I haven't seen it. Oh, no, that's not what they did. All right, forget it. No, I'm out again. I'm out.
Have you seen Hobbs and Shaw?
No.
There's a bit because obviously Statham's in the remake of The Italian Job, and there's a bit when they're in a garage and he points to one of the old minis or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I did a job in Italy once," and everyone was like, "Oh, was he in? Is he the same guy? The same guy?" So now everyone's got this theory that Hobbs and Shaw is the same character that's in The Italian Job. If he's the same character in The Italian Job, but that's the same goal that's from The Italian Job and from When Eagles Dare, we've got a universe building. That means it's connected to the Fast and Furious franchise.
Do you have a storyline in your head that you could vision if your Willow sequel? Would you have the Val Kilmer return? Do you have a separate story? Obviously, you have to bring Willow back, I guess, because it's called Willow.
I mean, it wouldn't have to be called Willow, but yes, I mean, I think and Warwick Davis is going to be in. I believe he's going to be in the follow-up. Yes, I definitely would bring that community and that world back into it, because I think that's what I loved about it as well. Was the everyman fighting at extreme odds to overcome tyranny and those kind of. That's why I loved I read Lord of the Rings when I was a kid, and that idea that those sort of simple, wholeful people can change the course and destinies against even the people who should be doing it, the warriors and all sorts. That sort of idea of those people triumphing against all odds is kind of part of fiction, isn't it? The kind of the everyman fighting and I think Willow's story of kind of someone who's slightly pathetic and not the sorcerer that he wants to be, kind of realizing and reaching his destinies. And I'd just love to know where that character is. I'd love to know where Willow Upgood, I think it's Upgood, Willow Upgood, is it Upgood? Upwood.
Upgood, yeah.
Upgood.
Upgood.
I'd love to know where he is and what he's doing. And I always remember watching that movie. I loved his relationship with his wife. Like, you really bought into this is a father who loves his family, and when he's on that quest, you really worry for. I really worry for him. I remember the sequence where he comes out. It's where he's been beaten up and he's got blood on his face, and I think it's where they took Laura Dannon and he's sort of like stumbling, and Mad Mardigan sees him. I just remember it's a film that gives me all the feels, and I think you could do it without Mad Mardigan. If Val Kilmer wasn't interested, I think you could do it without Mad Mardigan. Then you could create other characters. I think that Willow is such an integral part of that movie and the heart of that movie. Mad Mardigan is such an incredible character, and he's kind of the Han Solo, but without Luke, you haven't got a movie, really.
He's so good in this, Val Kilmer.
He's so good.
Oh,
For me,
this is classic Val Kilmer.
Movie.
Well, no, Heat is Val Kilmer's best film. He's phenomenal in Heat. He is, by a shadow of a doubt, this is Val Kilmer. Do you know the thing about this film and Val Kilmer's performance in it? It feels like Val Kilmer is enjoying acting and being a part of something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen Lost Souls, the making of Dr. Monroe, the island of Dr. Monroe.
No, I've heard about it though.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's on Amazon Prime. You can watch it. He just comes across as a really angry, like he doesn't want to be. And he must have been going through stuff in his life, and obviously, his performance as Mad Mardigan is exceptional. His performance in Heat is brilliant, and that was years later, I think.
So Val Kilmer and Joanne Whaley meet on this movie and get married, and that's the divorce that you were talking about earlier.
Oh wow!
Going through, yeah.
So when he was doing Batman, it was that divorce.
When we was doing Batman, they were getting divorced. Yeah. So that's kind of when I was saying there's a link. This is all going to come full circle. Yeah. When we're talking about him being angry in that divorce. They met on this movie. And there's such great chemistry betwing them in this movie as well.
Their relationship is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's such a good Sunday afternoon film, I thought.
It's always on a Sunday on Film 4. It seems to always be on a Sunday on Film 4.
How have I missed it?
And those were some of the best unequal sequels of Series 1.
Yay, you did
it. Oh, man. I can't believe it's the end of Series 1 already, Dave.
Totally emotional, isn't it?
It's gone so quickly, and I've enjoyed it so much. But the good news is you don't have to wait very long till Series 2 starts, because we're coming back in November.
Yay!
It won't be long at all, and we'll be back. And you won't even have known we've gone.
No, because the extras will still be carrying on as well.
Yeah. We're still going to do nice little short half-an-hour extra bits, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah, review, because there's loads of cool sequels coming out, so we're going to keep reviewing the sequels.
Yes.
I like how Dave's rolling his eyes there. Like, there aren't any good sequels coming out. What are you talking about?
No, there was until they all got delayed yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. There were some really good sequels coming, and now they've all been delayed.
We'll always have Ghostbusters. That seems to be.
Hotel Transylvania 4's coming in October.
Straight to Amazon.
Is it? Straight to Amazon?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, George was really looking forward to seeing it at the cinema, damn it. We'll be back in November. If you haven't listened to all the shows, this is a good chance for you to go back and listen to all of Series 1. They are definitely worth it. We need to say thank you to all of our guests, Dave. So we need to say thank you to Helen O'Hara. We need to say thank you to Seann Walsh. We need to say thank you to Matt Ferguson.
Yep.
We need to say thank you to Cameron Frew.
Yep.
We need to say thank you to Lewis Arnold.
Yep.
We need to say thank you to Tim and Matt from the Sequelisers.
Yep.
We need to say thank you to Fiona Underhill.
Yep.
We need to say thank you to Jordan King. We need to say thank you to Nathaniel Metcalfe. We need to say thank you to Jacqueline Paul. We need to say thank you to Rhys Bowen-Jones. Thank you, everyone, for being guests on our first series. You will go down in history when we're on Series 76 and we're the most listened to podcast in the history of the world. Joe Rogan has finally fucked off. People will look back on this first series and be like, hey, those are the trailblazers.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've had so much fun. I think Rich has had fun as well.
I've had loads of fun. It's been awesome.
Can't wait to get season 2 started, to be honest. So, exciting.
I mean, we have started, really. Don't tell anyone, but we're starting recording already on Series 2.
Yes, we are.
So we're ahead of the game in that. So yeah, like we said, you can listen to the rest of the series. Just go back and listen to us on Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, anywhere you get your podcasts from. Go and have a listen. Give us a little rating.
A review would be lovely.
Yeah, a review would be really nice. Yeah, that'd be lovely. Give us a little hello on Twitter. Say hello.
Yep.
Or follow us on Instagram, and we'll send some pictures and stuff out on Instagram. And yeah, if you want to drop us an email, if you want to be a guest on probably Series 3 now. If you want to be a guest, drop us an email. Let us know. That's unequalsequel@hotmail.co.uk. No, for God's sake.
This is just amazing.
24 times I've said this now, and I still can't get it right. unequalsequel@hotmail.com. And I'm not even going to ask if Dave's going to cut that out, because I know for a fact he's going to leave it in.
Let's sign off. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in November for the return interview episodes. We'll be around for the extra interviews and trailer breakdowns and whatever else happens in the meantime. We'll be around, and we will see you soon.
Bye.